human-centric. Actually looking forward to go seeing his desk in which he penned his on civil disobedience. That was the essay. What I want to talk about is the war machine, or war machines, or what some call the mega machine. And what I'm really going to do is just kind of gesture at a few ideas that will be explored in the workshop that Lauren and Bill and I are going to do called Cyber War and Robotic Warfare. Really, it's about the way in which the ongoing dehumanization provoked by industrial... Can everyone hear me all right? Still not loud enough?
Speak slowly, David, right?
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, the ongoing industrialization and computerization and corporatization of society is, as I guess Bill said, there's really nothing new. What we're seeing is speed and confusion and further sub-nature, as was the other Bill who said that yesterday?
John Schuster.
John, sorry. The sub-nature, the subatomic, or what I would say that we are particles or bytes in some endless stream of billions of lines of code. This blurring of our physical being with a virtual being, this blurring of space with cyberspace, this blurring of the private sector and the public sector, all of this are pieces of a mega machine that was presaged by many writers. Of course, Thoreau not the least of them. But I'm talking about people like Jacques Ellul, who wrote The Technological Society. Lewis Mumford, who wrote The Pentagon of Power. What's fascinating is the Software Engineering Institute, which is the main thing I'm going to talk about, is kind of using as an exemplar of what is this mega machine. And I'm sorry, I just got to get this smaller. With that. I'm not going to go through all this. Yeah. The Software Engineering Institute recently got $4 million to develop this analysis, or what resulted in a 60-page document describing ultra-large systems. And I swear half of it reads like excerpts from this book, Pentagon of Power, or excerpts from Jacques Ellul books. So they could have saved $4 million by reading, some of these philosophers of technology from the 1950s and 1960s. But, this is a picture of an action that I was part of, unplugging the war machines. This is the National Engineering Robotics Center at Carnegie Mellon. I also wanted to test people on this other quote. Industrialism is, I'm afraid, going to be a curse for mankind. It will court disaster.
Jefferson?
Nope. That's one of the favorites in this group. Come on. Gandhi.
Ah.
I'm going to show this short video clip here. I have a very short note.
The Army's Task Force 369, the Advanced Guard, the 1st Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division, led the way from Rabalagat all the way to Baghdad. Covered 350 miles in 15 days. We were really moving. Before we crossed the berm, we took every piece of new technology we could get our hands on. The Army's first combat deployment of brute force tracking, satellite communications on the move, a near real-time red picture. Even for the systems that weren't fully developed, the links to ISR assets, UAVs, and satellites gave a pretty damn good picture right down to Lieutenant Colonel. That's powerful stuff. And it was clear to all of us what kind of power a fully networked system could bring to a commander and his soldier. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Rock Marcone, and I commanded Task Force 369 in Operation Iraqi Freedom.
What did you do?
Speed. Of course, that was demonstrated in just how quickly that was edited and how many, scores of images there are. But there are many things that he mentioned in that. Again, we'll explore this in the workshop, about this network-centric warfare, a concept that was developed by our friendly neighborhood think tank called RAND Corporation. But there's all these different components to it. You know, there's no point in my enumerating them because that would take half an hour, really. But satellites, information, surveillance, reconnaissance, all these pieces that pull together in this, this ongoing theater of war. But, you know, as Lauren said, that this theater is so ubiquitous that the theater of war is an accident of where you happen to be. And where I happened to be when I was a student once was at Carnegie Mellon University, not robotics. But I was so surprised at the way in which CMU, as I like to call it, Carnegie Military University, was so deeply ensconced in the military-industrial complex, and that people there had no sense to what extent they were cogs in this machine. They were, I'm going to skip ahead some slides here, just because in the interest of time. They would constantly maintain the view that they're not building weapon systems. They're just, you know, this is the president of CMU when confronted by activists. They felt like they're contributing to the development of technology that would improve our lives. You know, this concept of industrialization, of course, that the more technology we have, the more gizmos we can have, and I love gizmos, make no mistake, the happier we can become. Whether or not their contributions in developing robotics or lines of code were actually used for the, you know, that complex network in space that was able to, you know, coordinate troops on the ground and send aerial vehicles to drop drones to drop bombs in Afghanistan. They were able to completely distance themselves from that. And it's a kind of cognitive dissonance that is so all-pervasive in society that it's almost impossible to untangle oneself from contributing to that larger war machine. And you know, the two pieces of it are, one is this warfare of robotics, you know, which, as we've seen in Afghanistan, is now becoming widely publicized. And the other part is this cyber warfare. And there was a war game that was conducted earlier this year, and an article came out to show that despite the, you know, billions of dollars that go into our military budget, and, you know, the billions of dollars that go into the Department of Homeland Security, quote, in Air Force Space Command's premier space and cyber war game, the players learn how hard it might be to ward off a devastating strike against U.S. systems. So despite these billions of dollars and all that sophisticated technology and advertising, sorry? Yeah, well, I mean, it's startling the kind of conclusions they came up with. You know, part of it was that there's the congested nature of space and cyberspace with so many players and nations and criminals and military units and hackers. On the scene, it was hard to know who was doing what to whom and why. You know, and in this blurring of space and cyberspace, of the real and virtual, you know, clearly the nation state as an actor or is like one and the same with the individual criminal in their view. And this is part of, again, an ongoing blurring of the identity of the enemy with the criminal, you know, that is part of our emerging national security homeland complex, or even the demonizing of dissent, where, you know, protesters are viewed as, of course, unpatriotic and as criminals themselves, and are able to, how much time are you going to give me? A couple minutes. So this metaphor of the enemy as a criminal and the criminal as an enemy further confounds matters. But to go back to the failure of our, you know, billions of dollars to so-called protect ourselves, you know, a couple other conclusions they make. You know, how do you contain something to a region when space assets are global in nature and strategic in nature? Or cyber is a domain where we have to figure out what it means. That this is the other interesting thing I learned in talking to a military reporter, that the Department of Defense and its many agencies are quarreling with each other about exactly what cyber means and how that relates to space and what cyber warfare is and how to respond. You know, and actually it was this failure of this game that, and some of the recommendations that came out of it that led to the recent announcement by the administration, the Obama administration, that they're going to view attacks on cyber systems as the same as attacks on our country and will threaten virtual attacks with physical attacks.